Hi, I'm Tammy Pennington Rhodes, and I'll be a panelist at the ABA's IPL Spring session on Thursday, April 7th at 3:30 to 4:30 p.m. Eastern. And my session will be discussing prosecution time management, defining a deadline. It may not mean what you think it means.
Hello, my name is Kenya Gramblin. I'm a law student at University of New Hampshire, Franklin Pierce School of Law. I will be a law student reporter at the 2022 ABA-IPL Section Annual Meeting, IPL Spring. I hope to see you in Washington, D.C., April 5th through 7th. Is there an app that you would recommend for more accurate time management? What is one piece of advice you would offer to attorneys looking to get more organized or start managing their time more effectively?
So that's exactly what my session at the ABA Spring is going to talk about. But with respect to an app, I have always just used whatever firm app was available, because then it will integrate seamlessly with the accounting system and it makes things very useful. But I know people who use analog systems where they literally start a stopwatch and they maybe have 4 or 5 on their desk. I think it just depends on how easy it is for you to use. Currently, I use just a timer, a simple timer, because the integration into the billing system is fairly easy. That is something I think you're going to need to work out with each individual law firm. Integration into the billing system is key, because if it's not easy to integrate, you're just going to not do it. So I don't think there's a silver bullet answer on that one. To get more organized, there's lots of ways to do that, and that's what my session teaches you about what a deadline really means. And even in litigation, deadlines are key, and how you manage your time to meet that deadline is very, very important. I would say that it's best to learn your own limitations. So if you know it takes you a certain amount of time to complete certain tasks and there's not enough time to complete that task given the deadline, you need to state that up front. And a lot of times you can be given help or assistance from someone else that can take some of the burden off. Because if you always say yes, people will always give you work. No matter how much time there is in a day, they will always give you more and more work if you always say yes. So know your limitations and always ask for help when you need it.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ili. I'm a law student at Boston University, and I also work on campus at the Office of Technology Transfer right now. I will be a law student reporter at 2022 ABA-IPL Section Annual Meeting, that is IPL Spring. I look forward to seeing you there, and let's chat later. How often do you use the extension of time request?
Extension of time requests occur in litigation and in prosecution. In prosecution, I have personal deadlines where the only time I would ever request an extension of time is based on a client's own request. There are strategies for requesting extensions of time. One might be if you know of something going on the business side where you need a little more time to see what's going to happen on the business side. Your client might say, let's not answer right away. Maybe we're wanting to abandon this application because of what's going to happen on the business side. Or other times they may want to speed prosecution up and address office actions quicker. So I use extensions of time generally only at the behest of the client. And I think that's a good practice. You always want your work to give the client plenty enough time to decide how they want to address any given situation, even if it's in litigation. I know that in litigation, it comes up a lot that you will want or need an extension of time in order to obtain documents or evidence that may not be easily accessible. So there's lots of reasons to obtain extensions of time, but just make sure they're not because you didn't manage your own time or you didn't manage expectations.
Hi, everyone. My name is Christina Yana Crosdale, and I'm a 2L JD MBA candidate at Howard University School of Law. To what extent does digital products and software help with time management as lawyering becomes more modernized with the times?
Digital products help you do your work more efficiently, but I'm not so sure that digital products help you maintain or organize the amount of time you spend on any one project. You either are a person that is organized or you're not. And if you're not, you've got to work extra hard in order to bill your time. So I'll give you for example. I bill my time as I incur the time. That is not what everyone else that I know does. There are lots of people who look at time on a weekly basis or even on a monthly basis. And at the end of the week or the month, that's when they bill their time. That's when they take down the notes or take down the amount of time they worked on any one project. I have a system, and for my system, I need to bill it as the work is done. So you can use a pen and a piece of paper. You can use an Excel spreadsheet. You can use a digital app that's running on your computer. Whatever it is, it just has to be something that you will do and that you can use efficiently and accurately. That's probably not the answer that it looks like Christina was looking for, but there's no one product that's going to work for everyone, and there's no one product that makes someone organized. You have to want to be organized, and you have to, whatever you're using, you have to actually use it. If you have a great app and you don't use it to its potential, then it's really not useful. So I don't know if technology has gotten to the point where digital timekeeping is so easy and seamless that everyone can utilize it and be on top of their docket or whatever it is they're working on. I don't think we're there yet.
Hello, my name is Elena Harris. I am a law student at Howard University School of Law. I'll be a law student reporter at the 2022 ABA-IPL section annual meeting, IPL Spring, and I look forward to meeting some of you there. Do you set false deadlines for yourself in order to leave a bit of room before the hard deadline set by the court or relevant agency?
And so I wouldn't call it a false deadline. And my session at the spring conference is going to go over that. There are lots of deadlines that you have to take into consideration when given a single deadline. And I'll give you a story. So for example, I was managing a docket and someone had been assigned a response to office action. And the day before the office action was due, they came to me and said, "Oh, I'm on this wonderful pro bono project, and the court asked us to come in tomorrow, so I'm not going to be able to do the response to office action." And I was so surprised because you have 3 months. You know the office action is due for 3 months. There's always going to be something come up at the last minute. There's always going to be something getting in your way of completing a task. That's why the USPTO gives us 3 months to respond to office actions. So within that 3 months, you should have allowed yourself enough time so that if something popped up out of the blue, it's okay. You can still meet your deadline. You're not causing someone else not to spend time with their family or to get their work done because you waited till the day before a deadline to complete your assignment. So I wouldn't call them false deadlines. I would call them um, your expectations. So I have something called a Tammy deadline. So, and I have a lot of people that tell me, oh, well, I would never meet the Tammy deadline. Well, that's because you're not Tammy. So I have a deadline that I set for myself. And generally speaking, my deadlines are never more than 2 weeks out in advance. So within 2 weeks, I will always complete everything that's on my docket. But other people have maybe a month deadline. So they'll set a month to get their docket cleared. You have 3 months, generally speaking, for most things from the PTO, sometimes 2, sometimes longer. But if you know your timeframes and you know your work, you should be able to meet your deadlines. And I go through a long um, a list of ways to set your deadlines and to meet them. The key point is that if you're always just meeting the deadline, you're always behind and you're causing other people to be behind. So deadlines are very important, but they're also something that you can manage if you know yourself and you know your own time limits.
My name is Daphne Epe, and I am a law student at the American University Washington College of Law. I will be a law student reporter at the 2022 American Bar Association IP Law Section Annual Meeting, IPLSPRING. I hope you join us at the conference in Washington, D.C. How important is time management in IP prosecution?
So, to me, time management is the most important element in prosecution because loss of rights incur if you miss a deadline, which is pretty significant for an attorney. You need to have several backup systems in place to ensure that as an IP prosecutor, you do not miss a deadline. So you should have your docket, your firm's docket. You should have bells, whistles, whatever you need going off so that you don't miss a deadline. So it's key. It is, if you are not a person who meets deadlines, maybe IP prosecution isn't the task for you. But with just a few easy steps, anyone can meet deadlines in IP prosecution, and that's what my session will go over.
Any useful tips for lawyers on how to manage these deadlines?
There are lots of ways to handle deadlines. I've already gone over one. Know how long it takes you to complete certain tasks. Like I can almost guarantee how long it's going to take me to do certain office actions, responses. If you're in litigation and assigned a memo, you should almost, after a few, you should know how long it's going to take you or be able to estimate how long it's going to take you to finish a memo. So if you know that, you should be able to manage your workload, to be able to ask for help and to justify the reasons for asking for help. I also keep something I call a gray docket because it's not part of the system. It's just what I keep. Some people use a pen and paper. I use kind of like an Excel spreadsheet to keep a list of things that I need to be working on. You can use notes. You can use OneNote. There's lots of different ways you can use to keep your system organized. I'm more of a spreadsheet person, so that's what I use. But you to manage your deadline, I think you need a system of checks and balances and backups.
Is there a way or ways to remedy the missed deadlines?
Well, for the USPTO, of course, you can always submit paperwork to say if something was abandoned and it wasn't meant to be abandoned, there's paperwork you can file to cure that. I will say with litigation, it's a little bit trickier. There are deadlines that are missed in litigation where the courts have said, well, that's your job and you missed the deadline, so you don't get to appeal whatever issue it was maybe, or you don't get to introduce that evidence is a big one if you miss a discovery deadline. So while there are ways to remedy missed deadlines, it's best just not to miss the deadline. It can be very difficult, even with the USPTO. It can be very difficult to prove that the deadline missed was inadvertent. You don't want to be in that situation. Almost everyone has had to file such paperwork if you've been a patent prosecutor long enough, just because of client issues. Maybe, a client changes law firms and switching the materials over from one law firm to the next. Sometimes things get dropped, but it's not a position you want to be in, which is why you have your checks, your balances, your bells, your whistles, anything that keeps deadlines in the forefront.
Based on your experience as a patent attorney, would you say patent prosecution is cumbersome?
Well, most patent prosecutors are engineers or mathematicians. We're some kind of scientist, generally speaking. So I don't think it's cumbersome because it has rules, it has patterns. And that's what, as scientists, engineers, that we're used to. So cumbersome isn't a word I would use. It can be a little more, where you need a little more organization than you would have had to use as an engineer or a scientist. And it's just because our docketing deadlines indicate a loss of rights date, and you just have to be on top of that. Prosecution is something I enjoy because it does have deadlines, concrete deadlines. It has elements, it has key bullet points that you can follow. If you look in the MPEP, you'll see all kinds of flow charts and ways to address arguments from the or office actions from an examiner. So to me, it's not cumbersome. It's a very organized and straightforward process. Now, because there are so many rules, sometimes you can get a little lost trying to find the one rule that meets what you need to know. But generally speaking, prosecution is, to me, fun and interesting because we have these sets of rules to follow. You get to make arguments. You're figuring out every day, you're figuring out a way to overcome prior art. Why is my invention different, or my inventor's invention different than this other art? So I think you just have to enjoy being a scientist or an engineer to be a patent prosecutor. You get to, I tell people all the time that I use my electrical engineering degree more now as an attorney than I did when I was an engineer, because every day I see different types of art. I deal a lot in telecommunications, but within that, there's lots of different aspects. And so I get to use my degree in a lot of different ways and learn a lot of different technology.
Hello, my name is Taylor Dubell, and I'm a law student at Western New England University School of Law. Prior to my time at Western New England, I got my master's degree in fashion law from Fordham University School of Law, where I primarily focused my studies on intellectual property. I will be a law student reporter at the 2022 ABA-IPL section annual meeting, IPLSPRING. I look forward to seeing you all there. Are there any other insights you would like to share about managing deadlines?
So the one thing I'd like to leave with on deadlines is that, a lot of times we don't exactly know where our clients are in the world. But when you do, you need to take that into consideration. So you could have inventors in your same time zone, but your inventors can also be 13 hours outside your time zone. So that's where deadlines become really important. It can sometimes take 3 days to get a response because of the difference in time zones. And that's something you need to be aware of. Sometimes that information is provided to us through our clients, and sometimes it's not. And when it's not, it's kind of up to you to figure out why communications are lagging. And if it is because of a difference in time zones, you may have to alter your work schedule. For example, sometimes I'll send correspondence to inventors in India on a Sunday night as opposed to a Friday, because I know they're probably not going to see it because it's going to be the weekend for them. So I'm like, well, maybe I'll send it on Sunday night, and then the first thing when they come to work on Monday is what I sent. So you can alter your schedule to meet or alter your internal deadlines to meet your clients' needs.